From our Kojo studios, this is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. Coming up, the Ashaiman Circuit Court remands 6 persons into police custody being held in connection with murder of trooper Imoro Sharif, as police is yet to level charge of murder against the suspect. Also, Minority MP demands investigations into allegations by former Environment Minister Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng that persons at the Jubilee House are involved in Galamsey. Now, also in this bulletin, public health nurses aggressively calling on mothers whose children lost out on vaccine shot due to the mandatory shortage in vaccines to come take shot before the 6-week window. Now, meanwhile, excited mothers who got their babies' jabs are hoping supply will be sustained. Now, despite holding 6 people over the death of young soldier Imoro Ibrahim, no charge of murder has been leveled against these people by the police service. Rather, the charges bordering on robbery and dishonestly receiving have been leveled against the accused persons. The 6 today were in court. Now, 2 of them were named in an official statement by police as persons who attacked the deceased with the aim of stealing his phone and backpack when the incident happened. Correspondent Joseph Akable reports.
Of the accused persons, Samuel Tete and Abubakar Sadiq, have been slapped with the charges of conspiracy to commit crime, namely robbery, and the charge of robbery itself. They are alleged to have accosted a soldier and attempted to rob him of his mobile phone and backpack. The 4 others, Ibrahim Abdul Rakib, Safiano Musa, Yusuf Mohammed, and Abdul Gafaru, are facing the charge of dishonestly receiving. Ibrahim Abdul Rakib is alleged to have purchased the phone of the deceased at a price of 300 cedis. He subsequently sold the phone to Safiano Musa for 350 cedis. The police say Safiano is being evasive as to the whereabouts of the phone and claims to have sold it to Yusuf Mohammed for 500 cedis and later to Abdul Gafaru Abdul Karim. The police says investigations are ongoing to attempt to recover the phone. All accused persons pleaded not guilty to these charges and were denied bail by the court. This was after they had failed to indicate to the court where exactly they resided at Ashaiman. Lawyer for 4 of the accused persons, however, has some concerns about the processes so far.
There is no iota of evidence brought to the court today to even warrant charging my clients with the offense of murder. Not even the robbery that the first and second accused persons were charged. So my client was simply charged for the offense of dishonest receiving, and it's simply because the police or the prosecution is saying that some of the phones believed to be owned by the late Sheriff Imoro were sold to my clients. And this is a situation that any of us can fall victim to, especially if you don't buy phones from the shops. You can be there, they will come and sell any item to you. That is what is landing them in this situation. But let no one take them as murderers. No. Thank you.
You placed an application for bail for them by the court.
Yeah, we knew from the onset that it was going to be a tough one. Remember, this case has so much public interest in it. And so on the first day, it's always difficult.
The case is back in court on 27th March 2023.
We're getting more from court document filed by police prosecutors. Court correspondent Joseph Akable joins with more. Joe, what more do we know about these 6 suspects?
The details we are getting from the court documents for the first accused person, that is Samuel Tete, we are told he's a 20-year-old and he's unemployed. The second accused person, Abubakar Sadiq, is also 20 years. He's a scrap dealer. Then the third accused person, Ibrahim Abdul Rakib, is also a scrap dealer. Safiano Musa is a trader. Yusuf Mohammed is also a scrap dealer. And the final one, Abdul Gafaru Abdul Karim, he is a driver.
Now, the charges against them seem to be new to people, for those of us who don't know much about law. But tell us about that.
And so in terms of the charges that have been leveled against them, and so first has to do with the conspiracy to commit crime, namely robbery, and the substantive offense of robbery itself. And we know that the substantive offense of robbery is a first-degree felony. For the other individuals, the charge against them is dishonestly receiving. And this particular offense operates in the sense that you have received something which is a proceed of crime. And so its determination of how it will be ranked as a crime will be dependent on what the substantive offense is. So in the event the substantive offense is stealing, then it will be treated as stealing. If it is robbery, it will be treated as robbery as well.
Interesting. Now, we also understand that there hasn't been the, charges of murder, filed against these people. Tell us, any idea why the murder charge hasn't been filed yet?
So there are two explanations that have been offered by our sources within the police investigations. The first is the fact that investigations are still ongoing, and once it gets to the level where they are ready to proceed with the main charge of murder, they will do so. The second reason they've given is a practical legal difficulty, in the sense that, assuming they were prepared to charge, if you read the facts closely, you realize that it was only two of the accused persons that actually accosted the deceased soldier. The remaining four simply because of the movement of the stolen mobile phone. And so the question is that in the event they were going to charge the two with murder, it would have meant that they would have had to do the indictment starting with the committal proceedings at the district court. And on the other hand, in terms of the offense of dishonestly receiving, they could have opted to do it at either the High Court or the Circuit Court. And so it will create a situation where you could have parallel trials ongoing at the same time. And that is what we understand could eventually happen. But for now, because of that practical difficulty and the fact that they also still investigating the matter, they are opting to file these charges now, and later on they will see what they can do about it. An interesting point to make on the issue of bail was the fact that the court, when they had asked for bail, the court had asked them to identify where they live, and it was even difficult for the accused person, some of them, to mention specifically the address or where specifically they lived, and that's what influenced the court's decision to opt to remand them in custody. And so they remain in custody, and we understand that if at any point the investigations get to the level where the state prosecutors are prepared to level the charges of murder, they will do that, because we've seen in other cases where the other offenses have been tried separately and the murder charge being handled separately.
Okay, grateful to you. Now let's bring in ranking on the Interior and Defense Committee of Parliament, James Agalga, who joins us via Zoom. Now, grateful to you, Honorable, for joining us. We understand the committee will be visiting Ashaiman. Just give us the scope of your mission there.
Well, the scope of the mission is to, first of all, engage with the victims of the military brutality that was inflicted. We need to engage with them, see the extent of injury suffered by those innocent people. Then after that, of course, we will visit the family of the deceased soldier who was buried a couple of days ago. After that, we would then make a determination based upon the evidence we would have gathered, whether a case could be made for the state to consider the option of paying compensation to the victims of the brutality. That is our mission for now. You know, all we have seen or heard is based on videos that went viral and basically hearsay. You cannot work with hearsay as a committee. And so it's imperative that we visit Ashaiman and see things for ourselves and then take a decision.
Okay. Now that the police have taken some suspect to court, is it still prudent that the people who suffered these brutalities still explore the option of going to court against the military?
Well, I mean, it's their right. I mean, the right to go to court to vindicate their rights cannot be taken away from them. So that is one angle where the victims could seek redress. But from our perspective at a committee of Parliament, basically ours is to exercise oversight. What were circumstances that must have led to the military high command sanctioning an operation which eventually resulted in excesses that they themselves have admitted? Then we want to make recommendations with the hope that those recommendations would forestall a future reoccurrence of what we saw in Ashaiman. So our mandate is very clear. I mean, we are supposed to exercise oversight. We definitely are excited that the police have been able to arrest a number of suspects. It is our hope that eventually the prosecution would yield some dividend, which they should eventually lead to convictions if indeed the suspects were the ones who committed the atrocious act.
You met with the Defense Ministry and the Ghana Armed Forces last week. What did they tell you?
No, they admitted that the operation was sanctioned by the High Command, but then the excesses is what we are looking at. They regretted that the operation resulted in excesses, and so the point is, how do we deal with issues of professionalism? I mean, in the future, would they take responsibility for the excesses, given that this was a sanctioned operation? And so there are issues we have to interrogate, which is why we'll be visiting Ashaiman. Okay. That is the first step. The next steps after our visit is to deliberate upon the information we would have collated.
Okay.
Following our visit, then we can take appropriate decisions moving forward.
Okay. Honorable James Agaga, we're grateful to you that you could join us here on our news. Let's join the Member of Parliament for the area, Ernest Nogbe, on the phone lines. He has been talking about the latest development on this case. Grateful to you that you could join us. Now, you are asking the Attorney General to be swift in how it prosecutes this case. Why not allow the case to travel its natural course?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers as well. Yes, the case will still take its natural course, but what I'm requesting for is swift, prosecution of these people, because that is the only way some can return to Ashaiman, as well as even the families of the people.
Okay.
There are times that cases of this nature remain or collect dust on the shelves of the AG or even the court for a very long time. For instance, we have a case at hand now that is the murder of one of our colleagues, MP, in 2015 or 2016 thereabout. As we speak now, nothing is being done. Justice is not served yet. In this case, I don't want the same thing to happen. I want a swift, prosecution of this matter, so that at the end of the day, the families of this deceased soldier and even the military themselves and everybody in Ashaiman will be at peace. And that is all the more reason why I'm asking for the expedite action on the matter.
Now, in the same statement, you're asking for an independent body to investigate the human rights abuses committed by the military men the other day. Why is this still necessary when the military has come out to say we are sorry, when the police is still investigating and have in fact presented some 6 people, to court today?
Yeah, these are two different matters. Well, the first one is the arrest of the criminals, the people who murdered the soldier. That is one aspect, and the other aspect is the invasion of the military in the community of Ashaiman by molesting and brutalizing innocent civilians. Now, the bipartisan committee will investigate the brutalization and the molestation of civilians in Ashaiman, the invasion of military into the civilian territory by brutalizing them. That is the bipartisan approach that I wanted us to adopt. Okay. However, the arrest of the criminals is in the purview of the police, and the prosecution is also at the Attorney General's department, and which has been done already. I must be frank with you, I have to commend the police, the IGP himself, who was on the ground in the night of the arrest. He was here midnight to effect the arrest. The Tema Regional Commander, the Ashaiman Divisional Commander, and the District Commanders, they did a yeoman job by arresting all these 6 suspects. But be that is may, we have two different issues at hand. The first is the molestation of the civilians, and then the second one is the killing of the soldier, which the police are dealing with. The bipartisan should deal with the molestation and then the invasion in the civilian community.
The other day you were talking about petitioning Shraj on this matter. What was the status of that petition?
Yeah, we are still collating the data. The military have admitted that there were excesses when they came to Ashaiman. And so we are seeking for compensation for some of the victims, because as I speak with you yesterday, I met some of the 34 victims. I mean, almost all of them, including the 150 that were released earlier. And if you see the nature of brutalities that they meted on these people, you will marvel, you will cry even for them. People are discharging blood through their private parts. And people's intestine at the hospital, at the general hospital as we speak, I have to send money to some people to be able to buy drugs, etc. They are hospitalized. When you see those things, you will be surprised. You will think, I don't know. So we are seeking for compensation for all these people. If they agree to do same, I don't think we'll further pursue the matter. In any case, if we pursue it to the latter, then it means that we wanted it to be a deterrent for military or any other officer or any other security agency to invade civilian territory and molest them. Because it will not be peculiar to Ashaiman. It will be for the whole country. It has happened in certain areas already, and we want to curtail that one now and for all, so that it will not happen again in any circumstance, under any circumstance.
Ernest Nogwe, I'm grateful to you for joining us. That's the Member of Parliament for the Ashaiman constituency. Moving on to other stories now. Member of Parliament for Busa South, Dr. Clement Park, is calling for a full-scale investigation into fresh allegations by former Minister for Environment, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, that some MPP members and government officials, including officials of the Jubilee House, are involved in Galamsey activities. Now, we will hear from Dr. Park shortly, but first listen to Professor Boateng, who made the allegations in an interview with a state broadcaster, and also alleged that his removal as minister was orchestrated by some members of the party because of his fight against the menace.
What was the true story?
The true story is that at the start of the Operation Vanguard thing, the soldiers were supposed to arrest the excavators, and they go into the forest where they are doing the mining, and they remove the control board. Okay. So if they remove 20 control boards today, they will report that they have immobilized 20 control boards.
Once they are removed, there's no way those excavators can move.
But then when you go away, they'll bring new control boards and fix them, and then and off they go. So we got a report that they had immobilized over 750 something excavators. So we appointed somebody to go around and check. When we went around, I think we got about 150, 200 that we could see. Okay. The rest had either been given to the owners or they put in some extra parts and moved them away. Okay. And then somebody put it out there, from Bob Martin has taken 500. What am I going to do with it? There was an orchestrated scheme, even within the party and government.
To get you out.
So that, look, why is it when I left, now everybody's in the forest? At that time, we dare not enter the forest. Yeah. You know. But as I said, I don't want to go into details now because I have a lot to say on that. But let me tell you that I did not take one excavator for anything. And they know the truth. Now things are coming up. We know those who are behind it, and the party people who are there, people in government, including Jubilee House, who are doing Galamsey and so on, even now.
Also, you heard there the former Minister for Environment, Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng. We had an agreement with the MP for Busa South to engage him on this, but we're not reaching him at this moment. So moving on to other stories now. Former National Chairman of the NDC, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, is expected to open his defense in April in a case he's accused of plotting to cause harm. In a leaked tape, Ofosu-Ampofo is allegedly heard with others plotting to cause harm to chairperson of the EC, Jane Mensah. Ms. Ofosu-Ampofo has been charged with 1 count of conspiracy to cause harm and 2 counts of assault against a public officer. Kweku Asante was in court for us today and has come through with this report.
National Chairman of the NDC, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, is standing trial with a communicator of the NDC, Kweku Boahen, for an audio that was leaked and a meeting that was said to have been convened and held in February of 2019, where they were plotting to harm the Electoral Commission boss, Madam Jane Mensah. This followed the Ayawaso West Wogon by-election and the violence that occurred during that election. The state is prosecuting these 2 NDC top guns for conspiracy to cause harm. And today, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo was expected to go into the box and open his defense. But when the court started hearing, lawyer for Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, Tony Letha, said the witness statement had only been filed last Friday and that he had not even had enough time to prep the accused person to be able to open his defense. They had a plea to the judge to move this court hearing to a new date, and Justice Samuel Kwame Adibu, a Supreme Court judge who is sitting with additional responsibility as a High Court judge, obliged and moved this case to April 17th. That is the new adjourned date. Justice Samuel Kwame Adibu had some concerns. He said that due to some new responsibilities, he's now only able to sit on Mondays. And so he looked at his calendar and decided that the next adjourned date is 17th of April. There were also other concerns that Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo is expected to bury his late mother just around the beginning of April. And so some of those factors had to come to play. And the judge looked at all those factors and moved the date. The prosecution, led by Director of Public Prosecution, Madam Obu Obisa, did not have any concern and did not oppose to this application that was made to the judge. And consequently, the judge made this adjournment. Reporting for Joy News, High Court Complex here in Accra, Kweku Asante.
Now, some public health nurses are aggressively campaigning for mothers whose babies lost out on the compulsory mandatory vaccination due to the shortage of vaccines to do so as soon as possible. Now, a public health expert warned of dire consequences should a shortage linger on. On Sunday, health facilities across the country took delivery of 3 vaccines, the oral polio vaccine, BCG, and measles. Hannah Odami was out today to check on the vaccination exercise. Here's what she found out.
It's a little over 9 a.m. here at the Adabraka Polyclinic, and I've been told by the public health nurse here at the Child Welfare Clinic that about 15 parents, 15 mothers, I should say, have already been here to vaccinate their children against any of the childhood killer diseases. And the parents, she told me, are excited. I spoke to one of them, Mamiesi, and she's overjoyed, but then she had a caution for government.
Say I don't be aba me boy eba ho ban cause ne bi no de ne haye pa but say nyam na eda na se my bi nsan si bium da emba de bia emai.
This is the place where your child will be vaccinated when you come. All the vaccines that were in short supply, this morning they received all of them. Public health nurse Patricia is urging parents to bring their children.
We are all urging our mothers around to just take the opportunity and then troop in, especially those who weren't able to get their previous vaccines. Please, we urge them to join any facility around them nearby and then take their vaccines, just to protect their kids also.
We are heading over to the Mamubi Polyclinic to also ascertain how parents are gathering to vaccinate their children. Mothers here at the Mamobi General Hospital are reiterating the same things that mothers at the Adabraka Polyclinic said. They say they do not want to experience the anxiety and uncertainty they had to deal with when the vaccines were in short supply.
Last month, I came here and the nurse said the polio is finished. So She gave us the next date, 13th of this month. That's today. So we came here to take it, and I'm very happy. I want to tell them it's very necessary for our children. So anytime it's short, they should bring it for us.
Oh, time na a short na ya anya bia de dida. Nti yet no na ya feel say bia na ye ne beso no na ya ye beba na asa. Nti ye da ban asese odi bia ba. Ma ebi nsi say vaccines ne ebesa. Because nkwala no so mu here.
One interesting thing happening here at the Mamubi General Hospital is how the public health nurses are urging the mothers who have come for the vaccines today to also go tell their friends, their fellow mothers, that the vaccines are in, so they should come. It's a rigorous campaign ongoing here, and the superintendent is Awo Pokwa.
Oh, as for Mamubi, we were fortunate to have the vaccines, with the exception of polio. And now today, the disease control officer just arrived with the polio. So even mothers who were living, we called them back and dropped the polio. And we've told them to ask mothers in their communities who are due for the polio, but when they came, there was shortage, so that they bring them. If not, the next month when they come for the next appointment, we'll drop the polio. We are very excited because with these vaccines, if the babies they didn't get it, we know what happens. There will be outbreak. So now that the polio has arrived, sure, 100% sure, 100% happy.
For Joy News, I am Hannah Odami.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. Still to come here, we'll tell you the story of how 200,000 cylinders of a company are locked up in a manufacturing company under government's flagship policy, one district, one factory. Welcome back from the break. Now, close to 200,000 gas cylinders are locked up in a cylinder manufacturing company under government's flagship policy 1D1F. Now, the factory located at Ewotu Breku in the central region is facing foreign competition that has grounded its operations. Managers of the factory are livid over what they describe as government's inertia towards local companies, the growth of local companies. Now, here are a set of our latest documentary, One District, Some Factories.
The woes of the One District, One Factories are not limited to Casa de Europa and Petersfield and Ray Group Limited. There are dozens of such factories across the country that are in the same state as the ones in the central region. Ghana has been importing cylinders for many years. But this huge importation of cylinders should have changed with the establishment of the cylinder manufacturing company located in the Ewotu Breku district.
When we did all the analysis, looking at the benefits that they were giving us, at the end of the day, our cost per unit of the product came even lower than what those who were importing from China were actually getting. So immediately we began our operations and we put our price out. This problem of import substitution, most of the people who were then importing immediately then decided to shift towards us. So at least in our presence immediately killed a problem that this country was actually faced with in the area of cylinder importation.
The patronage of the cylinders was huge, but today the company is out of business. Philip Asefa is the CEO of the company.
Immediately we began our operations and we put our price out. This problem of import substitution, most of the people who were then importing immediately then decided to shift towards us. So at least in our presence immediately killed a problem that this country was actually faced with in the area of cylinder importation. And so now if you come to our factory, boss, you'll be shocked. We are now getting to almost close to 200,000 cylinders. We cannot send one out because of what these guys are doing. These Chinese, they just came in, took over the market, cut the price down, and probably they are doing this for some time. So they realize that the Ghanaian factories have died down. Once we die down, they will come back. And what that means also is that in the future, 2 years from today, don't be surprised that they will be in charge of cylinder production in this country. And when we are suffering, we are struggling, we are talking about exchange rate challenges, they will pack their dollars and take it away. In times like this, when a Ghanaian from Okanshin has set up almost a $10 billion factory. So that is the challenge we are faced with.
Philip Asifua paints a gloomy picture about their investments. He said their investments are under a serious threat and government should ensure that Ghanaian businesses are highly protected.
A nation supposed to be there for its people. China developed their country, they blocked everybody and they developed their country. Deliberate policies, protecting themselves and making sure they got to where they are. Now they are rich and they are now hitting us. We cannot continue to talk about level playing field because what they are doing, this is a direct attack on us in our own country. My brother, if you come to the factory, you'll be shocked. You will see the cylinders plenty. We can't take them out. And workers are working. We have to let them go. This was a factory commissioned by the president just about 2 months ago. We were doing fine until this thing happened. We've written to certain agencies that we were expecting to at least come in, and I was shocked.
That's a gloomy picture of how some factories are struggling in this country. Now, the full documentary airs at 8:30 p.m. tonight. Now, the Ghana Meteorological Agency is warning of more rains accompanied by strong winds for the next 5 months. In what the agency describes as the monsoon for West Africa, Principal Meteo Officer Nana Kofi Poku urges the public to observe the changing weather and act accordingly. Now, for details in this, Nana himself is joining us via Zoom now to let us understand what this really means. Nana, I'm grateful that you could join us here. Let's appreciate what you mean by more rains accompanied by heavy winds.
Right, thank you very much. And good evening to all your viewers. First, I need to explain the fact that Ghana, for the southern part of Ghana, we have 2 major seasons. What is normally referred to as the major season, rainfall season, which starts from March and ends in mid-July. Sometimes it ends by the end of June. Then we have the September, October, November season. Now we are approaching the first part of the major season for the southern part of Ghana. That is the March, April, May, June season. And as we approach this season, the intervals between one rainy day from the other begins to shorten. So for instance, in March, you can have an average rainfall of about 4 in the whole of March. But as we approach May, heading towards June, we find out that it becomes closer. We can have rain even every other day. We can have rain today, then the next day we have rain. Okay. So what we are warning is that as we are approaching this season gradually and heading towards its peak, it is coming with a lot of gusty winds. Inherent in these rains will be heavy systems, heavy storms that will also be coming within this month, especially around ending of May and through most parts of June. And when these incidences occur, we are expecting that because the rains will be frequent, the ground will become saturated, and therefore percolation of water into the soil or ground might not be too effective, and there will be a lot of runoffs. And when this happens, that is what leads to these flash flooding and flooding activities that occurs in our locations. Okay. So we are expecting a wetter than normal season this year, something closer to what happened last year, but a bit less in intensity like what happened last year.
Will it be something that the whole country will experience, or some part of it will experience this?
Right. So during the peak of the season, every part of the country will experience it, but the intensities might differ. For those of us in the East Coast, right from Aflao stretching through to around Cape Coast area, we're going to experience a more wetter season than normally we have. Those in the western part of the country, from the Azim area, rising through to around Bole in the northern part of the country, yes, they're going to have a little deficit in rainfall, a little, but this will be more akin to the normal rainfall they receive. But then for the rest of the country, we're expecting a normal rainfall for the rest of the country.
Okay. So what must we all do, particularly for farmers?
Okay. So first, let me talk about all of us. Generally, we need to be aware that we are gradually entering into the rainy season. And therefore, as part of our daily plans, we need to inculcate weather warnings and weather activities into our planning. Before you step out every day, just find around or look for the outlook of the weather for the day and plan accordingly. Whichever sector you find yourself, if you know you do something that will be impacted by the rains, drivers will drive in the morning, at dawn, would have to be very alert for those visibility issues. Because just around those times, we have a lot of fog, especially around mountainous areas, and therefore they need to be cautious once they are treading these roads. But for the farmers, we have to understand that we're going to have more of a normal season, and therefore they need to plan accordingly. All things being equal, we should not have rainfall deficit to affect our planning, farming activities. It's going to be normal. But those who are within the western side of the country, just as I've said, are going to have something that will tilt slightly below the normal. Okay. But I'm not sure it's going to have major impact on food production in the country.
Okay. Nana Kofi Poku, I'm grateful to you that you could join us here. He is a principal meteorological officer with the Ghana Meteo Agency there. Now, we have been mistreated and sidelined on our own land. These are the words of the King of the Ghana State, King Taki Teko Churu II, as he says his people are sad about the development and will decide the 2024 general elections. Now, speaking during a visit by the NPP flag bearer, Alan Chamanting, the King urged the former Trade and Industry Minister not to take the Ghana people for granted if he is elected to lead the people and subsequently the president. Meanwhile, the former Trade and Industry Minister has been assuring the Galamsey he will transform Accra if he is elected president. There's more in this report.
Some supporters of the new Patriotic Party welcoming the NPP flag bearer hopeful to the Galamsey Palace. During the visit, the Galamsey King Taki Teko Churu II said the Ghana people have not been treated fairly. He says they will decide the 2024 general elections.
Accra is Ghana, and Ghana is Accra. Don't take us for granted. Build a social contract with the Gadangbe people, and you will see the light. If you win your bid, which we pray you do, don't forget the toil of these great leaders whose will, thought and process made this party what it is today. Gadangbe is sad. Sad because of a lot of things that are being done against us. That is why I'm speaking in English today. Because I want you to hear. We are sad. We are sad about the way we have been treated in the capital. People just get up, go to a place like Agbogloshi, and start building. Why? Without any recourse to the traditional authority. Meaning no only. Come and walk away. If we hang it, you hear no. Promote a national development agenda for the whole of the country, so that we will see there would not be shortchanged. We pray that if your bid is successful, you think about our lands too. A release of it will make Gadangbe very, very happy and in support of your claim.
NPP flag bearer hopeful Alan Chemantin says he will make sure more people of Gandangbe origin play an integral role in his government if he is elected as president.
In our party, our symbol is the elephant. And we know that the symbol of the Ga state is the elephant. All Gas naturally belong to the NPP. Because there's a spiritual connectivity between our symbols. And so if it is God's will that I lead this party and I become president, I'll make sure that Gas feature very prominently in the government that I will run. And I do so also for very strategic reasons. Because Greater Accra is a capital of our country. And it is the entry point into our country. And first impressions are important. And so it is in our own interest as a government to lift up the Ga state.
One of the spokespersons for the Alan Chemantin campaign, Katrina Feku, says Alan Chemantin has big plans for the Ga state.
Ga state has spoken, and they, in the embodiment of the Gamanche, has requested a social contract with the new patriotic party, the government that will succeed Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And he minced no words. He said, when you take over the leadership, remember the Ga state. That in itself is an encouraging path for Alan Kojo Chemantin, as he has done in the last 10 regions that we have visited, to urge on his leadership credentials, to share with the nation, but most importantly, to share with delegates that it is his time. It is his turn. He has waited patiently. He has followed the tradition, and he's sharing his loyal service and long service with the party, with first the traditional rulers of our nation.
Well, time for us to bring you showbiz and the Queen herself is here. And today she is really showing me, I mean, she's
Happy Ghana Month, everybody.
So what is this? What are these?
Something, it's a bracelet, and it's cute, and it's Ghana Month.
You know, anything that has my name in there is cute, so really.
Bracelet.
I'll give it.
That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. Let's talk about Small Thing You Do. Do you know the song? Yeah, you know.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, Prince Bright.
Yeah.
So he believes that he is one of the greatest musicians.
Oh, I'll give it to him.
You think so?
I will.
Let's listen to his explanation.
And we love to welcome people in our space. You know what I mean? So owning that now, say, I am coming from one of the greatest countries in the whole world. So I believe if I'm a musician, I am one of the greatest musicians to ever walk the earth. Come to say, when we started this, we already started fusing high life and hip hop.
Hip hop, yeah.
What is the order of the day now? Even if they change the name from hip hop and high life, hip life, into Afro beats, African beats. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with a very confused crowning. Because if we stay in our space, if we stay within what we are known for, I believe our impact will even be greater than it is. Because now somebody will say I'm doing Afrobeat, somebody will say I'm doing Afropop, somebody's doing I'm doing this.
Dancehall.
Exactly. Different kind of genres confusing the whole world. So to me, I would say, why not go back to our roots?
Okay.
And represent our roots to the fullest and be truthful to ourselves. And find a name that could really represent our blackness, our African descent. You know what I mean? Where we're coming from, not to forget that.
Right.
Up to this edition of the Joy News Prime. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. Prime Business with Beverly
You still
Brew.
don't love She looks nice.
Oh, she's beautiful. I love her. But as for this one, I don't agree with her. So
Prime Business is up next with Beverly Broom. And also, there's more news when you log on to myjoyline.com. All the entertainment stories are there. Please log on to that and keep following Joy News. We love you.